We know all about knights, castles, and wars, but almost nothing about the everyday side of medieval life. What really went on behind those stone walls? Today we're stripping away the myths, just the raw medieval home, from the entrance and kitchen to the bedroom and one room so strange you've probably never heard of it. But first, the big question: why was the medieval house actually dangerous to live in? The deadly threshold. To enter a medieval home, you had to bend down. That low door wasn't an accident, it served multiple purposes. First, it trapped the heat inside, warm air rises, and with a low door, it couldn't escape through the top. It forced every visitor to bow their head on entry. The owner, though, knew how to duck and enter fast. The threshold was high, too. It kept the straw flooring in place, blocked dirt, rain, and drafts from sneaking under the door. And according to folklore, it stopped evil spirits from crossing into the home. People genuinely believed demons couldn't step over a high threshold, but more practically, the door itself was massive, crude, and hung on enormous iron hinges. Heavy, awkward doors, combined with poor lighting, damp stone, and that slick threshold, made entry genuinely hazardous, especially in winter. The medieval home was rarely what you'd call safe. But step inside, and the strangest room in the house unfolded right in front of you. It surprised you, and not just with its smell. So what was hidden just past the entrance, where that sharp, pungent odor often came from? The Great Hall, living in chaos. Most medieval homes had exactly one proper room, and that single space was the absolute center of family life. Everything happened here, out in the open, with no privacy. You ate, worked, and rested here, all surrounded by family. In poor peasant homes where people and livestock shared one roof, animals were brought inside at night. It saved them from thieves and the freezing cold. Life here didn't just circle. It boiled over, mixing people, smells, sounds, and chaos in one cramped space. Of course, it all depended on your wallet. A poor peasant might have just a hut with a hearth and livestock, while a wealthy craftsman could afford something slightly more divided. But privacy, that was a luxury for almost nobody. The home was open, noisy, cramped, packed with motion. Picture one single room. A kitchen filled with smoke and smells, a workshop with tools, a bedroom where curtains offered an illusion of privacy, a dining area, and an improvised living space all rolled into one. In one corner, a woman stitches new clothes by candlelight. In another, a child carves a toy with a knife or chases a wooden figure across the dirt floor. Nearby, their father repairs an axe or weaves a basket. By the hearth, meat hangs from wooden poles, curing in the smoke and filling the air with that unmistakable scent. In the early Middle Ages, the hearth sat right in the center. Later, people moved it toward the walls, but in poorer homes, that central fire pit stayed for a long time. Above, the ceiling was coated in decades of soot, black, greasy, and permanent. Smoke curled through the room, sometimes finding its way out, sometimes hanging there, filling your lungs. During the day, the room lived in permanent twilight. Tiny windows, covered with parchment or wooden shutters, let in only the thinnest slivers of light. Everything inside felt submerged in an endless dusk. But where life buzzed and thrived, danger was never far behind. Cooking in the Middle Ages was far more dangerous than anything we deal with today. One wrong move, one stray spark, one sudden gust of wind, and the kitchen could become a death trap, the whole house a giant torch. So, how exactly did they cook when the entire kitchen could ignite at any given second? The kitchen, a fire trap. The kitchen was the epicenter of risk. Fire in the Middle Ages was both a tool and a constant threat. One spark could take down an entire house, and those hearths, they smoked, constantly. Until the 12th century, stone chimneys were an absolute luxury. Only in the late Middle Ages, thanks to new city regulations and the eternal fear of devastating fires, did chimneys finally become common. Before that time, smoke just rose slowly to the ceiling, drifting out through a small hole in the roof or seeping through the many gaps in the walls. The rooms were filled with acrid fumes. Breathing was hard, your eyes burned, and your clothes, they reeked of smoked wood, permanently. Modern researchers still find soot-blackened lungs in skeletons from that ancient age. Smoke was an inescapable, everyday reality, even for the very young. But even despite the smoke and the constant crowding, life inside this chaos was surprisingly well organized. Women managed the open fire with real skill, hanging massive cauldrons from forged iron chains, turning spits by hand, positioning their braziers so that every single coal gave off its maximum heat. Every tool had its rightful place, because a single moment of carelessness could mean total disaster. And yes, cats lived right in the kitchen. They kept the mice away from those precious food stores. But next to the fire was another space, even harsher, colder, and more cramped. This is where people spent a third of their lives, sharing it with creatures who really didn't appreciate the company. So, just why could the medieval bedroom become such a genuine hazard to your health? The cold reality of bedtime. Separate bedrooms? Mostly, they didn't exist. You slept where you ate and worked, sometimes on benches, on chests, or right on the floor. Actual beds? That was a sign of wealth. A medieval bed was basically straw stuffed into a rough sack. And you had to change that straw often because bugs and fleas moved in fast. In winter, the temperature inside a stone house could drop nearly to freezing outside, so families slept all together, huddled close for warmth. Sounds cozy until you remember they often brought the animals inside too. Livestock meant extra body heat. The wealthy had beds with canopies. Not for looks. Those curtains blocked drafts, and anything that might fall from the rafters or roof above. But there's one room guests were never invited into, and not just because of the smell. This is where the strangest secret of medieval life was hidden. Which room did they keep so secret? And why did it become the source of legends about spies and assassins? The wardrobe, a medieval secret. Sanitation in the Middle Ages, let's just say it was unique. In ordinary townhouses, toilets were usually outside, just simple sheds built over pits in the ground. At worst, people just used a chamber pot and called it a day. But in castles and noble houses, they had something special. The garderobe. A primitive toilet built into a stone bay window sticking right out from the castle walls. The shaft dropped straight down, into the river, the moat, or right onto the street below. Travelers back then described in horror how the waste would fall, sometimes landing nearly onto the heads of people walking by. The name garderobe wasn't random. People also hung their clothes in these spaces. They figured out fast that the strong ammonia smell was great for keeping moths away. But this openness had a dangerous side too. Legend says that spies and assassins could slip in through these very shafts, silent, invisible, and taking a very unpleasant route to get inside. But despite the garderobe trick, the most valuable things in the house weren't hidden in secret niches or hidden rooms. There was actually another place for that. What was the real heart of the home, and why did it decide the fate of an entire family? The chest, your only safe. The chest was the most important and most respected object in the entire medieval house. It wasn't just a simple storage box. It was the very heart of a family's wealth, a symbol of stability, a small fortress inside the larger one. Not a wardrobe, not a pantry, not a separate room. The chest. They kept it in plain sight, always under their watchful eyes. Inside, they kept their money and clothes, personal records, their finest tools, rare fabrics, and jewelry. Occasionally, they even stored food, keeping it safe from rodents and greedy hands. The chest was a safe, a piece of furniture and decor all in one. You sat on it, you ate at it, put a board across it, and suddenly you had a table. Children slept on it, warmed by its presence in the cold stone house. The locks might have looked simple, but craftsmen made them so only the owner could open them, or perhaps a thief who knew the rare mechanism well enough. And chests were passed down through generations, serving families for decades, sometimes centuries. Their lids gathered scratches, deep marks of time, scars from candles and knives, and every single mark became part of the family's unique story. Some chests were so heavy, it took 2 people just to move them, but no one complained. This box held their family's fate. And yet, with all their simple tools and harsh lives, these stone houses somehow survived the centuries. They stood, and many still stand today. How did they endure through time, fires, wars, and weather? Built to last, why they survived. Medieval stone houses were a truly brilliant mix of simplicity and human ingenuity. Built from local stone, they seemed to grow right out of the landscape, part of the earth itself. And if something broke, you fixed it with whatever was at hand. That's exactly why these structures outlasted storms, fires, rain, and human error. Inside, conditions were brutal, cold, damp, dark. But for medieval people, home was first and always a fortress, a place to shelter from the dangers outside. And despite the soot, the smoke, the cramped quarters, they filled their homes with something else, human warmth. They managed to create comfort in spaces where we today couldn't last more than a few hours. They adapted. They found clever solutions. They shaped their space to survive and to keep their families together. And maybe, hundreds of years from now, people will look at our homes the same way, with the same wonder we feel looking back at theirs. Just imagine, what kind of legends will they invent about us? If you truly enjoyed this journey through time, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more history ahead, stories that change how we see the past and help us all make sense of the present.